Hello and welcome to Rise Unwind. My name is Dan. You know, each and every week we talk to people from across the country about things you could do right now in your neighborhood. And on this week's show, we got this.
You know, having a family of 4, I might go to the dairy aisle to get my sour cream, my cheese, to help make that casserole, to stretch the chicken and the vegetables that I have at home, to ensure that I'm always watching my budget, but I'm really happy with what I'm serving my family every night.
All of that and more right here on Rise and Unwind. Do you ever dream of uncovering lost treasure, exploring ancient tunnels, or even chasing down history's greatest mysteries? You know, Josh Gates lives that adventure for real. And he's back with brand new seasons of Expedition Unknown and Expedition Files on Discovery Channel. Fresh off a Daytime Emmy win, Josh's latest expeditions dig deeper than ever, from inside Egypt's Great Pyramid to tracking hidden treasures around the world. Josh, it's great to see you here.
Thanks for having me, man.
All right, I guess without giving out too much away or spoiling it for everybody, what is one moment this season that you thought to yourself, I can't believe we're actually pulling this off?
I think it's our season premiere, which is this big 2-hour, 2-part special on the Great Pyramid of Giza. And look, this building, which is 4,500 years old, has always inspired conspiracy theories and mystery. And so we are going to crawl through every inch of the Great Pyramid, sections that are closed to the public. We're going to descend deep beneath the pyramid into the bedrock itself. And to be down there in those tunnels was just such an absolute, electric thrill. And to take our viewers with us, that's the moment where I was like, I can't believe we're doing this.
Fans love both Expedition Unknown and Expedition Files. Can you give us the elevator pitch? What is the biggest difference between the two shows and why people should be tuned in for both hours?
Sure. I mean, Expedition Unknown is our boots on the ground exploration adventure show. So we spend the whole hour, or in the season premiere, 2 hours, investigating far-flung mysteries around the world. That's where we're going to be crawling in tunnels, macheteing through jungles, diving into the unknown. Expedition Files, we are able to tackle 3 stories per hour, and these are incredibly iconic mysteries. I serve as a kind of guide through those stories, taking our viewers into the past, meeting experts and authors and historians that have, revelations, breaking news about some of the most famous cases in history. So that's really kind of pulling open the adventure filing cabinet and looking into these really awesome stories. And Expedition Unknown invites you to literally get dirty and get out there in the world with us.
Josh Gates says, if you want to be a Bilbo Baggins and go on an adventure, pull a Nike and just do it. See, like I put 2.
Just do it.
Yeah, there you go. Josh Gates, I want to thank you for joining me today. If you are into real-world mysteries, big swings, and a host who actually gets dirt under his nails, watch Josh Gates on Discovery. New episodes of Expedition Unknown and Expedition Files on Wednesday nights. Check your local listings and stream full episodes at discovery.com. Thanks for hanging out with me, Josh.
Hey, all the best, man. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Most people think it can never happen to them until somebody suddenly takes over a property and the legal process turns into a total nightmare. A&E's series Squatters follows Flash Shelton and his team as they help homeowners reclaim their homes in some pretty tense and emotional situations. Flash pretty much first got in this world after dealing with some squatters in his own family home, and now he's helping people across the country. Welcome to the show, Flash. How are you, my friend?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, your story started when squatters took over your mom's home. What was that experience like for your whole family?
I kept it from my family actually, until later, but I couldn't tell my mom. My dad had just passed away, and I moved her in with me to sell her home and to help her have a fresh start and, closer to family. But, navigating that situation and learning all about squatters is what I needed to do to just be the good son. And my family, I couldn't tell my mom. She was still distraught over my dad. I just told her that I needed a lease so I could go up and be on the property to do some repairs. And, it was successful. I learned a lot about squatters and I out-squatted them. I figured if they could take a house, I could take a house.
And now that the show is out, what kind of reaction have you been getting from some of the viewers?
Everyone's excited. And, I think that the fact that the awareness is, it's teaching people what a squatter is and that they are normal people. They are just entitled and figured, that there's a flaw in the system, they should be able to take advantage of it. I think, people truly understanding that squatters are not homeless people. So squatters and a homeless in a housing crisis have nothing to do with each other.
And some of these situations on the series tend to be really intense. Was there one case in the season that surprised even you?
Yeah, I mean, I had a case where, there's several people, and, I'm always hearing that, they're drug dealers or they're, committing crimes on the property or something. And, a lot of times it's I have to look into it, and I don't find any evidence of that. But in other cases, we just have to go in extremely careful. I don't want anyone to get hurt, including a squatter. So I think that the fact that, it's just, there are different types of cases every single day and different stories. So at this point, it's like, I don't know that anything surprises me.
And what do most people misunderstand about the squatting laws and how difficult these situations can become for homeowners?
I think that there is a misconception about squatter laws and tenant laws. Tenant laws in a lot of states were written under the, guides that a homeowner is rich and a tenant is poor. But anyone who owns a home knows that just because you own a mortgage doesn't make you rich. And tenants are not all poor. Some people just choose to rent. So, it's I think that there's a misconception about the laws themselves and the fact that there is no line between a squatter and a tenant. So squatters are assuming tenant rights.
And after helping in more than 100 cases, what advice would you give homeowners to help protect themselves before something like this happens to them?
Documentation, like being able to document when an intruder enters and how they enter. In today's day and age, there is no excuse not to have a camera that you can monitor from your phone anywhere in the world. When somebody walks up your driveway, you get alerted. When somebody goes into your mailbox, you get alerted. If you can monitor when they enter, they are now arrested as a trespasser, and they will never become your squatter.
Flash Shelton, I really want to thank you for joining me today. You can catch episodes of Squatters now on A&E with streaming available on the A&E app and at anetv.com. Flash, thanks for joining me again today.
All right, thanks for having me.
A lot of action franchises try to go bigger every time, but Jack Ryan Ghost War is also digging into trust, loyalty, and what service really costs. The new film continues the world's fans already know while standing on its own for people jumping in fresh. And joining us today is the legendary Wendell Pierce, who returns as James Greer. Wendell, it's great to have you on the show, my friend. How are you?
Oh, thank you. Thanks for having me.
All right, James Greer has always been one of the most grounded characters in this world. What do you enjoy most about stepping back into him for Ghost War?
The character of James Greer really reflects some of the people that I met doing the research of this character. Real CIA officers, retired, who have kind of given me their true north to form a more perfect union, and some of the debate that they have within the agency, and but understanding that the shared idealism of working on the mission, which is to form a more perfect union and protect that. Those are shared values. And so stepping back into the role, that's the thing that I'd love to portray. As an actor, you're a student of human behavior. And what you want to do is create the world so strong that it induces that behavior. And that's the great thing about reliving a role like James Greer.
One thing John Krasinski mentioned is that the story works for both longtime fans and for people who've never watched the series. Was that something you felt like while you were making it too?
Oh, absolutely. You don't have to be familiar with the series at all. You can come to this fresh. You will see the history that we have as characters. You will see our relationship. You will see our expertise. And then also you have this story of what's happening now, this casual act that I ask a favor of Jack Ryan to do for me that actually ignites a global espionage chase. And so it is one of those things that people who have seen the series can come to and appreciate the next level of where we take the characters and people who come to this fresh and new. But what we do over the course of a series, put into a 2-hour movie, is just heightened and it makes it a lot more intense.
And you said it's been heightened, it's more cinematic, a little bigger, but it also keeps the political and moral tensions that Tom Clancy's stories are known for. What kind of balance does this film strike between action and some of the character?
Well, you know, I think it's very important. I'm very proud of the fact that we keep the debate happening about the clarity of mission and clarity of what values are, and the political debate that happens around that, because that is happening within the world, what happens within the agency, and it makes you, as the viewer, look at it and decide what your values are. You know, I mean, that's the forum of what filmmaking should be about, the place where we collectively come together, reflect on who we are, decide where we want to go, decide what our values are, maybe bring that into our lives. And so I love that we have that debate, and at the same time have some of the best cinematic thrill sequences of action comparable to the French Connection and Marathon Man and all of that, you know. So I'm very proud of the cinematic and the debate that happens within the film.
And fans, they know you from so many incredible roles from over the years, but there's something about Greer that people really connect with. What do you think keeps audiences invested in this character and this franchise?
I try to make James Greer a everyman. You know, that people look at it and go, there but by the grace of God go I. You know, that they can see themselves in James Greer. He's a man of pragmatism. He's a family man. He's flawed as he tries and did not succeed in keeping his family together. But with all of that, he is principled. And he attempts to hang on to his principles and values. And people will see themselves in that, you know. Not someone who's perfect, but someone who's pragmatic and at least tries to live by some sort of moral code. And that's who we all are, and that's who we are when we dream of who we can become. So that's the thing that makes him prescient, you know, and personal. And that's what I pride myself on when I try to portray him.
Yeah, thanks for being here today. Jack Ryan, Ghost War premieres May 20th on Prime Video. Wendell Pierce, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
With household budgets feeling stretched, many people are looking for ways to get more value from the resources they already have. New research from the Hartford suggests workplace benefits may be one area that's often overlooked. Here's a quick look at how understanding these benefits could help support your financial well-being.
At the Hartford, we insure 1 in 8 working Americans, and this gives us a unique view into what employees are experiencing right now. That real-time view, along with insights from our Future of Benefits study, shows people are worried. More than half of U.S. workers say their biggest concerns are financial strain or day-to-day cost of living, and 43% aren't sure they're choosing the right workplace benefits, which can be a financial safety net when employees need it most. To get clarity, our data shows a growing number of employees are turning to AI for benefits help, and Gen Z is overwhelmingly trusting the recommendations. It's exciting that people are engaged in seeking benefits information from more sources than ever, and that's where the Hartford comes in. We're taking AI-powered tools, combining them with human expertise, and helping employees make better benefits decisions with confidence. To learn more, visit thehartford.com.
You know, the grocery store could feel a lot different than it did a few years ago. And one aisle is getting a lot of attention right now, and that is the dairy aisle. Between focus on protein, new products hitting the shelves, and families looking for value, there's more happening there than many people actually realize. Brooke Parkhurst is a culinary instructor, cookbook author, and food expert, joining us with a closer look. Welcome to the show, Brooke. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so people have been buying dairy staples forever. So what's driving this renewed interest in the new dairy aisle selections right now?
You know, I think they're finally realizing how many exciting new flavors and foods have entered the dairy aisle. Like you said, they have their staples, their greatest hits that we all love, but now there's so much more. We have globally inspired dips and sauces. We have fresh new yogurts. We have interesting flavored creamers. We have pre-made doughs. There's just so much, and they offer us great versatility, flexibility, and always the great nutrition.
And we're hearing that buzzword, protein, 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 all of the time now. How does dairy fit into that conversation and the latest dietary guidance?
Yes, the updated new dietary guidelines really, work on that buzzword protein, but also on nutrient density. So we were always doing a great job with our dairy products, right? They don't need to be fortified, but the key is now they're portable, they're on the go, they're versatile. You can throw it in your bag on the way to the station. It can be a high protein snack pack, a cottage cheese cup, a Greek yogurt. You can get your dairy protein not just at breakfast, but really any time of the day. And that's so awesome.
And with grocery prices still top of mind for a lot of families, what makes dairy a good value?
Yeah, the dairy aisle, it's not about the low price, but it's about the great value. So I like to call certain items on the dairy aisle my amazing stretch ingredient. So, having a family of 4, I might go to the dairy aisle to get my sour cream, my cheese, to help make that casserole, to stretch the chicken and the vegetables that I have at home, to ensure that I'm always watching my budget, but I'm really happy with what I'm serving my family every night.
What are some of the newer products like flavors or trends that you're seeing that shoppers may not have discovered yet?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just, once again, so exciting, all about innovation. We have these international, globally inspired dips. We have probiotic drinks that we might not have had before. We have the creamer for our coffee that makes us feel like we went to an expensive coffee store. We have doughs that are pre-made to help us make homemade pizzas and flatbreads, or we might go ahead and make sugar cookies, at home and pour a big glass of milk to go with that. So many different flavors, so many different foods, but we always feel good about what we're serving ourselves and feeding ourselves and our families.
Okay, so we're heading into summer. So what are your favorite quick meals or grab and go snacks from the dairy aisle?
Yeah, you're in Tampa, so it's probably already hot. I'm here in Florida too. So summer eats, right? All about fresh, flexible. What can you get out relatively easily? Once again, I said I love those flatbreads. I love for our 11-year-old son making an ooey gooey, melty grilled cheese with 3 cheeses. I love throwing together a cheese and charcuterie board at the end of the day to enjoy by the water with my husband. Whatever I can do to get that protein and make it quick and fun.
Brooke, where can people go for more recipes and ideas?
You guys can go to easyhomemeals.com for all my tips, tricks, and recipes. And don't forget, also, there's the June Dairy Month $10,000 sweepstakes. You could win a gift certificate to your favorite grocery store. So many things. Just make sure that you submit your application before June 30th.
Brooke Parkhurst, I really want to thank you for joining me today.
Okay, thanks for having me.
Most of us probably don't think twice about sitting down and enjoying a meal until something as basic as swallowing suddenly becomes difficult. Esophageal conditions quietly affect everything from nutrition to energy levels to even everyday social situations. But doctors say many of these conditions are treatable, and in some cases, without major surgery. Joining us today are Dr. Sri Komanduri from Northwestern Medicine and esophageal cancer survivor Carol Smeja, here to talk about some of the warning signs people shouldn't ignore and how advanced treatments are helping patients get back to living and eating normally again. Welcome to the show, you two. How are you?
We're doing great. Thanks for having us.
Great, thank you.
Carol, what first made you realize something wasn't right?
All of a sudden, I started losing weight that couldn't be explained at all, and I was experiencing sort of a lack of concentration, fatigue, and just not feeling myself. And I was looking for an answer for so long, and it took close to 9 months to really figure out what was wrong.
So how did the difficulty with eating start affecting your work and everyday life?
You become very elated, and you begin to withdraw from social situations. And there were times where getting food blocked and having trouble ingesting and digesting food, you sort of run into a situation where the joy of eating becomes the stress of eating. You don't really realize what a big part of eating is in your day-to-day life and your social life.
Dr. Komanduri, why can some esophageal conditions be so difficult to detect early?
A lot of esophageal disorders, and specifically those that can lead to esophageal cancer, like Carol's, really stem from gastroesophageal reflux. We typically think of these as being very symptomatic, like having heartburn all the time. But the truth is that the vast majority of people don't experience any symptoms at all. And so we call this sort of silent reflux. And the problem with that is over time it causes inflammation and ultimately can lead to an early cancer, as was the case here. So simply relying on symptoms, unfortunately, isn't the best avenue.
In fact, I had absolutely zero symptoms. I never had indigestion. I never had any sort of antacid problem. And so I was shocked when I found out that I had esophageal cancer.
What symptoms around swallowing or eating should people never ignore?
Well, for mine, it just slowly evolves over time. And I think the weight loss, especially with esophageal cancer, is the most significant thing. If you are losing weight, there's a reason for it. And just getting an endoscopy to see can really save your life.
Yeah, I would add that, some very typical alarm symptoms would be that difficulty swallowing, so if food's not going down well. But on the other side, what you've seen here is that a lot of things that involve eating and our food tube going down really can manifest in so many different ways. So I think really if you've modified your enjoyment of eating and you've really become very tight on your diet, you may want to just talk about this with a physician to make sure it isn't representative of something more dangerous.
What is advanced endoscopy and how has it changed treatment for these kind of conditions?
And as an advanced endoscopist, what that really means is we provide patients with an opportunity to have diagnostics and therapy for different conditions in the GI tract with minimally invasive tools. So this is using endoscopes as opposed to surgery, so cameras going down the mouth to remove tissue, especially early precancerous lesions, without the need for complex surgery. And so what that does is it makes the recovery quick. It allows for patients to get procedures done on an outpatient basis and not necessarily be admitted for extensive periods of time. So this is sort of the flavor and the way a lot of management of disease is going, especially around the GI tract and early precancerous conditions, is these minimally invasive routes. And that's really where advanced endoscopy focuses.
I mean, I was absolutely amazed. When they first told me that I had cancer, it just sort of like a silence just permeates your body. You feel a void, and I didn't know what kind of world I was going into. And then through Dr. Komanduri, I found out I didn't have to have radiation. I didn't have to have chemotherapy. This was outpatient, so I could continue on with my life. And that's an amazing thing. So the earlier you go, the better off it's going to be for you. And I always tell people, don't run away from cancer, run towards it. And Dr. Komanduri has been with me on this entire journey. I'm not alone.
So what does the new Center for Advanced Endoscopy mean for patients?
So one of the tricky parts of advanced endoscopy is a lot of times it's limited to academic medical centers that are, especially in Chicago, within the city. So one of our goals was to build a center that would be standalone out in the suburbs, in the community, to offer those very high-end innovative procedures like what we did for Carol without patients having to navigate the Chicago traffic here, for example, and drive into the city. And so now we provide high-level advanced procedures for all these conditions in multiple places, not only at the academic center, but out in the community where patients live.
And finally, where can people go to learn more?
The simplest way is to go to nm.org, and you can search for the Center for Advanced Endoscopy.
Dr. Komanduri, Carol, I want to thank you two for joining me today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Wellness trends come and go pretty fast online, but this one actually has nutrition experts paying attention. Fiber maxing. It's all over social media right now, and the bigger conversation is that most Americans still aren't getting enough fiber in their diets. Amy Shapiro is a registered dietitian and nutrition expert, and she's joining us to break down why fiber matters and some easy ways people could build healthier habits without overcomplicating things. Welcome to the show, Amy. How are you?
I am great. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so fiber maxing, it kind of sounds like one of those social media buzzwords. What's really behind this trend?
So really what's behind it is taking something like fiber, which as a dietitian I've talked about my entire career, and making it trendy so maybe more people will do it. So when you add a maxing to it, it makes it more exciting. And as a dietitian, I stand behind that because I want people to do this every day. So we want them to meet their goals of 28 to 34 grams of fiber every single day.
And we hear about the word protein constantly, but fiber seems to be getting overlooked a little bit. Why is it so important? Why is it so important for digestion, heart health, and overall wellness?
Yeah, so protein was maxing for a while, but nobody's really deficient in protein. So many people, 90% of Americans, are not meeting their fiber needs. And it's important because it doesn't only help with digestive health, but it also helps with metabolic health. So when you have enough fiber, you are supporting your gut microbiome, gut integrity, your immunity, your digestive health, but also it helps to lower cholesterol levels. It helps to balance blood sugar. It helps to keep you feeling full in between meals, especially metamucilalium fiber. These all play a really important role. So it's just a great fiber hack overall.
And not all fiber has been working the same way. What makes psyllium fiber different from some of the other options people see out there?
Yeah, so psyllium fiber, the type that's used in Metamucil, is actually, when mixed with water, it turns into a gel-like substance in your digestive tract and moves through to help remove excess cholesterol and other things that just don't keep you feeling great. So that is what Metamucil psyllium fiber does, as opposed to insoluble fiber, which is more like a broom from bran. That's why I like to compare them.
And for somebody realizing they probably aren't getting enough fiber, what's the easiest place to start without totally changing a routine?
Well, the way to meet your fiber goals is by doing something that adds it naturally to your routine. So I always like to recommend eating more plants. That's where we get fiber from. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, beans. These are really important components of our diet. If you're not getting enough of those foods, whether they're unavailable or you don't like them as much, then adding something like Metamucil psyllium fiber to your daily routine is also a really easy habit to start building. All you have to do is mix it with some water, have it in, before breakfast, during the day, before dinner, after dinner, wherever it fits in. The most important thing with fiber is that it's not a fad. It's something that we want to do consistently every single day. So by adding fiber throughout the course of your day with enough water will help you to feel your best and, continue to do this regularly.
All right, you're also part of this new Metamucil Mic Grab series. What's the idea behind it and why do you think people connect with it?
Yeah, so with the Metamucil Mic Grab, I sat down with 90s icons, Lance Bass from NSYNC and Danielle Fishel from Boy Meets World, and we talked about, honestly, about health. So what we did was we grabbed onto this fiber maxing moment and talked about how fiber really helps everyone, made it not such an embarrassing conversation to have outside of your doctor's office or behind closed doors, but something when you see these friendly faces, people that you can relate to, that you realize it's okay to talk about these things and that everyone should be doing it. So it's a real fun, entertaining, but educational Mic Grab series that we created. And, it's really enjoyable.
All right, cool. Where can our viewers go for more information?
So at metamucil.com or follow along on Metamucil's Instagram channel.
Amy Shapiro, I want to thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. Have a great rest of your day.
And that is it for Rise Unwind. I want to thank you for tuning in and checking out the show. You can find us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and on YouTube. Just look up at Rise Unwind. And until next week, that was the show we like to call Rise Unwind.